Hey y'all, this is Alex from the Rim Review. The Rim Review is a page that offers in-depth player analysis and gives nuance to the way you watch basketball. In this series, we're going to be looking over every single prospect in the upcoming NBA draft. In today's episode, we're going to look at the 7-foot stretch 5 Kel'el Ware. When looking at Ware's offensive game, there are a few strengths that just jump off the page. The first of which is the fact that he can stretch the floor and pick and pop, which is very beneficial for a 5. Ware shoots 42.5% from beyond the arc. Next, he's really solid in the pick and roll, and he's also used as a lob threat. While I don't love hitting him in the short roll, his athleticism and being able to catch lobs and have a decent touch around the rim is really nice and a big reason why he averages 1.16 points per possession in the pick and roll. Finally, his offensive rebounding is superb. He has 63 offensive rebounds on the season. While that number might not be an amazing number, considering the fact that he did not play a ton at Indiana, and the fact that he is really athletic, he goes for a lot of plays, it allows him to have a lot of putback baskets, which is really nice to see. There are still some pretty big red flags to Ware's game offensively. The first of which is passing. Kel'el Ware's passing is honestly non-existent. He frequently misses reads or will throw a lazy pass that leads to a turnover. It's just not part of his game, and it's something that you're really going to wish for more of, especially for someone that you might want to get picked in the early 20s, late teens part of the draft. Next, his ability to handle pressure or double teams in the post is also really limited. He frequently is kind of just outmatched by some of the stronger bigs he's faced, and I'm concerned that if he has to go against NBA level centers, he's really going to struggle with that physicality. Finally, the actual act of him setting screens is really weak. While he's still a good and efficient player in the pick and roll because of his ability to pop and be a lob threat, he's limited in that effectiveness because of the fact that he actually just doesn't set the best screens in general. He frequently will miss contact or rely on a brush screen, and it seems very clear that he's afraid to make that contact or that he's too lazy and does not want to. I think this is something that he's really going to have to work on, whether that means he puts on more weight or whether that simply means he just gets tougher and learns how to absorb contact. But it's definitely something I'd like to see him improve on in the next level. Now let's start out and explore Kel'el Ware on the offensive end. On this possession, Kel'el Ware pushes in transition and showcases his athleticism as he gets this lob dunk. While he doesn't run with the most pace, his leaping ability is very nice and good to see. There's nothing really special about this possession, except it shows just how long and how big his wingspan actually is. On this next possession, Kel'el Ware is going to set a drag screen, navigate, and score. Once again, there's nothing really special about what happens here. I don't love the lack of contact on this screen, but it showcases his being patient and just shows a little bit of what he can do. On this possession, wow, what an amazing block, and he does a really good job running and burying himself in the post. While he doesn't get the ball as early as I would like, what I like to see him is running into the right spot, looking for it. Maybe he could call for the ball a little earlier. I don't love just from a team perspective. I feel like we should already be in this corner or this corner here. Number 5 is kind of clogging up that space. But I like seeing the block, and I like seeing Kel'el Ware run the floor. And once again, just a really nice lob dunk. On this possession, he's once again going to run into an early post, which is how he gets most of his finishes in transition. As you see, he's not the hardest runner. He's not necessarily the quickest guy, but he does a good job and seals to score here. I really like to see it. I don't necessarily think that he has to put the ball on the floor here. I think this actually puts him at risk of this guy coming over and getting a steal. So maybe he could jump off of 2 feet and finish through contact, but it still is a nice finish, and I love the positioning that he got. Unfortunately, when Ware does tend to have an early post, he's very much a finesse big, and it leads to some soft finishes. Right here, he gets really great possession, but he just doesn't do much with it. Oftentimes, Kel'el Ware will rely on this mid-range fadeaway instead of using his size, which you hate to see from a 7-footer. It's very clear that he's still working his way into his body and definitely needs to add more to his frame to be successful. I'd like to see him bury him in the post a little bit more and be willing to use the contact and attack his man. We're going to see something very similar in this possession. He's going to run a little harder than we have in the other clips. He actually does a good job getting ahead, and he gets the ball against Zach Edey and really struggles, and it's just awkward. Now, to be fair, it's Zach Edey, and almost every big would, but I don't love the fact that he forces it up right here, and he just overall looks uncomfortable when he has to deal with this kind of size. I really don't see any of that changing if he were to go against a center, like think about Zubac if he's playing against the Clippers. I don't really see that being something where he's shown clear strides to improving on. One final clip of Kel'el Ware in transition is his trail three and his shooting ability. This is what's going to get most scouts excited because you're not going to see many 7-footers that can shoot and be as athletic as he can be. His release is a bit slow, but it looks nice and he knocks it down. Now that we've watched Kel'el Ware in transition, let's explore him in the pick and roll. In this possession, Kel'el Ware is going to set a screen at the top of the key. While it's not the best screen, he does make contact, which is not always a guarantee from him. And obviously, the highlight play right here is him showcasing his immense length and wingspan to get a nice dunk. On this next screen, Kel'el Ware is actually going to twist the ball screen, and I'll show you all what that means in a second. Ware is going to come up here, and initially he looks like he's setting the screen on this side. However, Ware recognizes that the defense is doing something called icing. Pretty much what that means is that Fletcher Loyer is going to get in right here and force this man to reject the screen. Kel'el Ware is really smart and instead decides to turn the direction of the screen and set it over here, and that's how he's able to make contact. So we'll watch this live. He twists the screen. However, he is a little bit awkward getting out of this twists. Part of that is because of the snake, but then again, a really nice lob dunk. His vertical leaping ability is really good, especially for someone of his height. Right here, he does a really good job having a nice touch to open up, and I like this screen. However, when he catches the ball, he's really awkward, uncomfortable, and just takes a bad shot. Right here, Kel'el Ware is operating the floor at the top of the key. He comes and tries to set a screen again. However, once again, he kind of shies away from wanting to make contact. He gets the ball and then uses his size and length to score, which is really nice. And I like Kel'el Ware here actually initiating this bump and having that contact because that's not always a guarantee for him. So that was really good. Right here, Ware is going to come up and set another screen. Once again, he's slipping it, so I don't hate it, but it just feels awkward. It's not as quick or as fluid as you'd like. He does come out here and has a short roll. I personally would like him to make this kick every single time it's wide open. However, he does a nice job scoring and using his length. Now let's watch him in a couple pick and pop situations. Kel'el Ware right here is going to come and set the screen at the top of the key. Once again, it's not the most explosive. And honestly, I really feel like this should be a shot. He's wide open. Like, this man is not going to come out and get you. But if it's not going to be a shot, we need to rip through and we need to be confident. Kel'el Ware seems to be really awkward here, doesn't know what he wants to do, and it leads to a travel. We're going to see Kel'el Ware right here in this next possession doing a dribble handoff. They're running delay, which is pretty much when you pass to the center at the top of the key. He rolls and has a touch shot. But once again, it's a little awkward. I think that this kick, I know that this kick is wide open. I'd like to see Kel'el Ware play off of 2 feet rather than jumping off 1. And it just definitely seems like he's very much a raw big that still needs some work, especially when you're missing kicks that are as open as these are. On this next possession, we're going to see, once again, a similar trend from Ware. He gets out of the screen, but he's just really awkward and out of control. I'd like him to establish himself a bit more and feel comfortable. Like right here, I honestly do think that if he was a better passer, maybe there's a lob dunk here or some kind of dump off. You could also pass fake here and then kick to the corner. But I have no problem with him looking to score. You just have to be under control. And Ware really doesn't seem to do that, and he frequently really struggles with contact, which is a big issue for him. On this possession, you're going to see what a lot of scouts are excited about with him. A pick and pop 3. He gets into it, has a quick release, and knocks it down. Similar thing here. He pops, doesn't make the best contact, but he stays aware, and he gets a good release off. Once again, it doesn't go in, but he shoots 42.3% from three. I think a lot of scouts are going to want to develop him into more of a shooter. I don't think Indiana properly utilized him as the pop threat that he can be, and I think he could be much better for that going forward. Here, he's going to have a dribble handoff and then go into the post, which is something that he has shown flashes of being able to do. But he's much more of a finesse big when he's in the post. You're not going to see him bury you. He's not going to take multiple dribbles and back you down. It's much more of this over the left shoulder, right hand touch shot that he prefers. Another thing that he does do a decent job of against smaller guys is, as you see right here, he uses his length to kind of seal this man in, and his arms are just massively long, so it allows him to make a really nice play here. On this possession, we see him hunting the post, looking to get the ball multiple times kind of throughout the possession. Indiana would run this a lot where they would just clear space out for him. And right here, he does do a good job using his length, using his size, getting his butt into his man. So he shows flashes of being capable to do this. Right here, we're going to see another right-hand touch from Kel'el Ware in the post. He initially starts off, is not fully engaged with the play, but once the ball gets to his size, he backs down his man and goes into this exact same shot. This shot right here, you're going to see a lot from Kel'el Ware. I don't necessarily know if it's the most efficient shot. I think a more efficient shot would be a wide open corner three right here. Once again, Kel'el Ware, passing, not a strength. You don't see it much from him. But I do think that it is his shot. We can say that. Whether or not it's efficient or not, that's another debate. I think he's going to have a coach really work with him, because some of these moves work in college, but in the NBA, I'm not sure if it'll work. He also loves having this post fade, which we're going to see right here. He's doing a good job hunting for the post. He faces up his man and then goes into this kind of fade 5-foot mid-range shot. I don't love the shot. I don't hate it either, but it definitely is a shot that he's consistently looking for and trying to get. Once again, when you see him in the post, think he's a finesse big. Right here, soft finish again, completely out of control and really just awkward. This is going against a Penn State center, and to be honest, I have no clue who's guarding him, and that's a problem because I do know who's going to be guarding him in the NBA, and it's going to be a lot harder than this. And so I think there's some big steps for him to take, and I think the first recipe is you've got to put on more weight, especially if you want to be a 5. A really big concern that I also have with Kel'el Ware in the post is protecting the basketball. He has a pretty loose handle, and as you see right here, the ball is just completely taken away from him. I like that he's trying to initiate contact, but it's just really just soft and not great. Another thing that he really struggles with is any sort of double team or trap that occurs in the post. He's going to catch the ball right here, and he doesn't even make an attempt. He just says, okay, Iowa, I like the fact that you're double teaming me. I'm going to hand the ball to you. This pass is telegraphed. Like, just no control, no confidence. He's clearly very bothered by this kind of length and pressure that they're putting on him. And once again, these are some random guys on Iowa. This is not a dominant basketball team that he's going against here. Not a bad team, but not a dominant team. So just imagine what happens when these are athletic NBA wings. Imagine if this is like Jaden McDaniels on Minnesota coming over help side to trap with Rudy Gobert on his back. And I'm not saying that teams are going to trap him necessarily, but when it's such an easy steal, I think it's going to be hard for teams to put Ware on the court, especially initially. Right here, we're going to see another issue with this, struggling with the fire. Good defense, and Ware does do a good job sprinting ahead. Good from Indiana as a team here. He hunts the post, what I like to see, but then completely panics, has no clue what to do, and loses the ball. One thing that I really do like from Kel'el Ware in his game away from the post is him operating in delay. For those of you who don't know, delay is pretty much when you pass the ball back up to a center right here. And the reason why I like this is because delay will typically flow into a bunch of DHOs. And Kel'el Ware does a really nice job keeping DHOs, while sometimes you'd like to see a big keep a DHO and go downhill. He keeps the DHO and tries to take a shot. Well, the shot doesn't fall. I actually don't hate it, and I kind of like seeing that confidence from a big. We're going to see something similar right here. Kel'el Ware is going to come up, get the ball at the top of the key, decide he wants to keep the DHO, but then kind of an awkward mid-range. I don't love this shot selection from Ware. I like Ware to kind of attack Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson isn't very quick. He's strong for sure and a pretty decent shot blocker, but I'd like to see Ware do a little bit more when you keep. I think with some of the other bigs that I've watched recently, when they decide that they want to keep a DHO, they really create an advantage, and Ware does not necessarily do this, and part of it's due to his lack of explosiveness at times. Finally, let's end up and have just some fun and watch his athleticism with some really good offensive rebound dunks. His length is going to be really promising to NBA teams. Just look at him right here. He just babies some poor kid in Nebraska that probably has accounting tomorrow. Just watch this. Boom. Really good stuff. Now let's move on to Ware's game on the defensive end. The first and really just kind of thing that's going to stand out from a counting stats perspective is Ware's rim protection, where he got 56 blocks last season. The next strength that Ware has is his ability to play in a variety of different pick and roll coverages. While I don't think Indiana properly utilized this ability, he's kind of shown flashes to play in a bunch of different coverages, which is nice, and he's even shown flashes of being a switchable 5, which is exciting. Next, and finally, is his driving line defense. Ware's length allows him to make up for getting beat by quicker guards, and I think that's why he's a pretty good defender in the driving line. While Ware is considered by many scouts to be a very good defender, there are some glaring weaknesses. The first of which is the fact that there are major motor concerns with Ware. At Oregon, which was his previous school before Indiana, Ware was rarely put on the court due to a lack of defensive work ethic and potentially giving up on plays. In Indiana, there were flashes where this very clearly seemed to be true, where he was bothered by the fact that they might be losing games, and he does have a tendency to quit on plays. Next is a very inconsistent post physicality. Ware's length and size should allow him to be a pretty decent defender in the post. However, when he has to guard bigs who are kind of similarly sized to him, he frequently gets just honestly absolutely bodied, and it's a little concerning to see. Finally, Ware really has a bad tendency to give up baseline spins. Sometimes he'll be too aggressive or cheat plays, and it allows people to just spin baseline and get really easy layups against him. I think of these three weaknesses, the number one concern is low motor, and I think it's something that a lot of scouts are going to have to ask him about in the interview process. Now let's watch Kel'el Ware defensively. The first thing that he's able to do is utilize his length in order to make highlight plays like that one. Which I love about this is Ware having good instincts, he knows when to leave his man, and just uses his length to make a really good play. On this possession, it's something very similar, Ware uses his length and just embarrasses this guard. Now let's move on and watch some actual defense rather than just highlights, as we see right here. Where he's picking up his man, he's being aggressive, and he does a really great job sliding his feet, and I love the fact that he doesn't foul here. It would have been really easy for potentially on this drive right here, Ware to cheat and it leads to a reach-in foul, but he does a good job, and once again, that length is next level. Watching this possession, Ware is initially going to deal with a screen where he's going to play drop coverage, but he has active hands. Then this pocket pass is thrown, and he does a great job staying in front of his man, and once again, that length is next level. Right here, we're going to see Ware use drop coverage again, which is once again one of the biggest coverages used in the NBA. It's definitely a higher drop than what you would see from a player like Zach Edey, but it still is a drop. He comes back, and then his length is really nice to bother this shot. It's very clear that the man that pops right here is uncomfortable because of how long Kel'el Ware is. Ware is also pretty mobile, so he might start off in a drop and then veer into a switch like he does in this possession. The screen's going to occur at the top of the key. He picks up the guard, and then really good footwork stays in front of him, and this length is just really fun to watch. However, there are once again some motor concerns. Right here, Ware is a little too deep in the drop. I think at this point, like, part of this is on number 2 for not getting back, but I'd like to see Ware swipe and then run back. He's a little slow at changing pace here, takes an extra step, and it gives up a relatively open 3. but I don't hate it because he is a pretty long defender and it's not completely his fault. Another thing that's going to get scouts really excited is his ability to switch. As you see right here, he switches onto a guard, isn't phased by any of these moves, and honestly, I don't know what this guard was doing. I don't know who this guard is, but it's been a rough video for him with 3 just heinous shots. In this possession, we're going to see Ware play a hard hedge and showcase his ability to have different types of coverages in the pick and roll. Right here, Ware comes out initially and is pressuring this guard right here. The guard chooses to change direction, and Ware shows a really nice job getting back in position. While this is a play that is like really simple and nothing stands out about this, I like seeing this because it lets me know that Ware has experience with different coverages. On this play, Ware just decides to straight up double team on the wing, which is a really good coaching strategy. They do this right here, force the pass, and Ware shows a nice job recovering. While he doesn't fully sprint back, I like seeing that he's at least somewhat mobile here. On this possession, Ware has to guard the post as his man catches the ball on the elbow and attempts to back him down. Ware does a really good job absorbing multiple bumps and being physical, which leads to a turnover. Right here, as he guards Zach Edey, it's really exciting to see him compete and try to make a play. He's being physical, he makes his catch hard, and it shows flashes of what could be a really nice aspect of his game. Really great stuff. Against Maryland on this possession, Ware once again is going to utilize his length in order to get a stop, which is really good. The punch screen occurs here, and wow, he's just really long. Unfortunately, Ware's post defense is extremely inconsistent, and it leads to plays like this where he frequently will give up the baseline. He's kind of leaning early and doesn't expect it and gets beat. And this clip, you're going to see the game is kind of already a blowout. This does tend to happen a lot when you're playing against Maryland. And then Ware is going to have to guard the post here, and he's not fully competing, he's not fully engaged, and his man kind of simply backs him down and gets an easy shot. And this clip right here, Hunter Dickinson is really able to get the ball really unbothered when he's trying to compete for this catch. So as we see, like, it's not the same level of fight that we saw from Ware with Edey. Ware just kind of lets him get it and provides some resistance, but not much. And I think it's this like level of inconsistency with his physicality in the post. When you combine that with the narratives that are around him, it does raise some red flags from a scouting perspective. Overall, I'm kind of conflicted when evaluating Kel'el Ware. I think there are flashes of things that could be really exciting, and there aren't many 7-footers in the NBA that can shoot like he can. However, I will say the number of 7-footers that can shoot is growing at an exponential rate. So being able to shoot at his height is not the complete automatic green flag must draft this guy that it used to be. However, like when watching his clips, there just wasn't anything that truly wowed me. I think his length is good, his verticality is really good, he has a really good leap, his side-to-side movement is solid, but there are times where he just looks disengaged, and when you compare this with some of the issues that happened at Oregon and some other things that watch his film, I definitely like knock him a bit for that. I think when watching him, a comp that I've heard a lot from a lot of like scouts and mock drafts have been comparing him to Miles Turner. I don't necessarily love that comp. I think Turner sets much better screens, which is a really big concern of mine for Ware. I also think Turner is more physical and has a little bit more like of a bag outside of just the touch shot over the left shoulder that's definitely not going to work at the next level. I actually like the comp that I was kind of thinking when watching him, a little bit of an older player, but Gorgie Dang from a few years ago. They're both 6'11", 7 foot. They both can shoot the ball pretty well, and they both kind of move very similarly. I actually think that type of role, being somebody that is maybe like a seventh man that comes off your bench and can be like a stretch 5, maybe you start him and plug him in if you're on a lesser team. I actually think that's probably what his career is more likely than not going to look like. And that's a pretty good career. Gorgie Dang was in the NBA for, I think, close to 10 years, if not more. And so I think that that is his kind of more likely outcome if he's able to remain committed and work hard. I think his ceiling is obviously maybe if he puts on more weight, maybe he can become Miles Turner, but I don't think he ever gets there, to be honest. And I think his floor that does seem to be maybe a possibility is he struggles to make it onto the NBA court because of other issues and maybe not being as fully committed throughout the game. And I think it's just going to determine if a team's willing to fully invest in him and push him to be the best he can be. He was such a better player at Indiana than he was at Oregon. And a lot of this was because the coaching staff at Indiana really believed in him and did what they could to uplift him. And I think it made him a much better player. I hope he can get a good supporting system around him. And I think if he does that, he can have a nice long career as kind of a solid NBA player. I don't think he's going to do anything spectacular. However, I think he can develop into having a solid and long career. That's my take, and I look forward to talking to y'all in the next episode.